introduced a number of investments covering social services, medical services, educational services, a number of community investments in this 96-block area. And when he started the Harlem Children's Zone, he said, look, there are both structural factors and cultural factors, and they interact, and I'm going to have programs that represent both structural and cultural interventions. One example of the cultural interventions that you mentioned is this baby college, where they get the mothers of expectant children and those with children up to age 3 and teach them about how important it is to discipline the child properly, that there are alternatives to physical discipline, how important it is to read to their children, child, adult, mother-father bonding, and so on. And they develop a curriculum which is based on Brazelton. What's Brazelton's first name? The pediatrician. Terry Brazelton, right, thank you. Terry Brazelton's ideas about successful training of infants. And that's one example of a cultural intervention. Then you have...
But let me ask you, what are the outcomes here? I mean...
Well, I'll get to the outcomes. On that particular program, the baby college, a substantial majority of mothers report that they're now reading to their kids much more than they did previously. And that's one example. Then you have a program called Harlem Gyms, where these are pre-kindergarten programs. You get these kids in and you get them ready to enter kindergarten. And the evidence reveals that 100% of the kids in these pre-kindergarten programs are kindergarten ready. 100%, that they can read at the level of kindergarten. And then we have the most spectacular programs representing education investments called the Promise Academies. Now, these are charter schools, public charter schools. One created in 2004, the other in 2005. Now, Jeff Canada began this program without the charter schools, and he couldn't get the cooperation of the public schools for the things that he really wanted to do. There was resistance in the public schools in New York, and so he went to the state to get a charter to create 2 charter schools so he can hire his own teachers and make decisions on the curriculum. And the kids are in these schools 60% longer than kids in public schools because they have an extended school day, and they also have some classes on weekends, and they have a ridiculously short summer vacation. Now, to make a long story short, and he's also free to hire his own teachers, and they don't have to have degrees in education. And it took him some time to find really high-quality teachers. He went through quite a few turnovers. Well, to make a long story short, in the statewide cognitive tests, the English language arts tests, and the math tests, the kids in the elementary schools scored at or in the math test, the kids in the 3rd grade 100% in Promise Academy 1 and 97% in Promise Academy 2 scored at or above grade level in math. Now that's comparable to kids in upper middle class white suburbia. And in the 8th grade, 87% scored at or above grade level in math, even though they didn't have didn't have early exposure to the program because the charter schools were not created until 2004. But still, 87% scored at or above grade level in math. And in the verbal scores, in the English language arts tests, the results of kids in elementary school were spectacular, much higher than kids in regular public schools. I mean, here you have kids from some of the most impoverished families, mostly single parents, with scores on tests that equal those of kids in really very privileged neighborhoods. I mean, the results are really very, very dramatic indeed. And the reason that program is so important is that Barack Obama has decided to create a program called Promised Neighborhoods that are patterned after the Harlem Children's Zone. He's going to have a pilot program of 20 promised neighborhoods in 20 cities across the country. That program is going to get even more attention when Obama begins speaking about it early next year.
Do the academic results, of course, even some teachers said these kids couldn't do it, right? But the Harlem Children's Zone and the schools there proved them wrong. As far as you're concerned, do those results definitively show that what the Harlem Children's Zone did in Harlem could be done almost anywhere, or do we need more information?
Well, first of all, we have to understand why the program works. And I'm working with Roland Fryer, who's an economist at the University of Chicago, and he's pulled together a team of social scientists, economists, sociologists, to collect data, comprehensive data, both quantitative data and qualitative data, on the various interventions so that we can try to get an understanding of why this program is so successful. The objective is to develop a comprehensive theory that would explain the success of the program based on this theory, empirically based theory. And hopefully we will be able to provide the Obama administration with a theory to help them evaluate the promised neighborhoods when they get off the ground. But I'm very excited about this, and I'm really looking forward to working with Roland Fryer on. And we have a team of graduate students at Harvard in the sociology department who are very, very excited.
Do you have any sense of, all over, kids, black and white, are in failing inner city school systems, and the Harlem Zone is Children's Zone is so productive. Do you have any sense of how long it could be before we actually see situations like this on the ground in 20, 30, 40 U.S. cities?
Well, the RFPs are going out either late this year or early next year. And I was talking with Arnie Duncan about this, and they're very, very concerned about this program. They want this program to be successful. So RFPs, requests for proposals, and they're only going to select the very, very best proposals to ensure the success of the program. And Arnie asked me...
Secretary of Education.
Arnie Duncan, Secretary of Treasury, asked me, the reason I call him Arnie is because he said he used to hang around my house when he was young, and I tolerated him. We were going to write a book together and never did get around to it. But he asked me, why did I think the Promise Academies in the Harlem Children's Zone were so successful? I said 3 reasons. Number 1, Jeff Canada has the freedom to select his own teachers. He doesn't have to deal with the unions. Okay? And number 2, the extended school day. And number 3, the very short summer vacation. Now, the reason that's important is that during the summer, kids in the inner city go home and watch TV. Their parents can't afford to send them to summer camp, enrichment programs. Kids in suburbia go to summer camp, all kinds of other cultural and educational enrichment programs. And therefore, the gap on these tests, these cognitive tests, widens dramatically during the summer months. Not the kids in the Harlem Children's Zone. They get the same intellectual stimulation the kids in privileged communities get during the summer months. So I told Arnie that that's why I think